And a medical expert says the latest bout of flu infections could peak around mid-January. Travelers flying to or from the UK faced disruption Saturday as thick fog and low visibility restricted air traffic on one of the year's busiest weekends. London's Gatwick Airport warned that some flights may be delayed throughout Saturday, apologizing for the inconvenience. This as late Friday flights were delayed by up to 3 hours because of poor weather conditions, and most short-haul flights to Europe were delayed Saturday morning. Heathrow Airport, one of Europe's busiest, advised passengers to check with their airlines regarding potential delays. Back locally, a respiratory expert said the latest bout of influenza cases in the city is expected to peak around mid-January. But according to Dr. David Hui, we are unlikely to see a comeback of a COVID-19-driven outbreak, at least in the near term.
Speaking to TVB News, Dr. David Hui, Chair Professor of Respiratory Medicine at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, said the speed of jump in the COVID-19 caseload is not as fast as that in influenza infections in recent weeks. So the city will likely be spared from the twin onslaught of both the flu and COVID-19 in the near term. However, with a large number of residents traveling abroad over the Christmas holidays and the outbreaks of H1N1 influenza in popular destinations including Japan, the mainland, Singapore and Taiwan, flu infections will likely increase. And the Department of Health has recently halved the 9.21% baseline positivity threshold for flu. That lower threshold means it's easier to reach an outbreak.
By January, we will see more and more influenza cases. As to how long it will last, well, in general, once you have an outbreak, usually it takes about 4 to 6 weeks to go to the peak, and then another 6 to 8 weeks to come down.
Dr. Hui noted the number of people donning a mask has gone down from around 50% last year to less than 20%.
If you have not received the vaccination, the only way you can protect yourself is to wear a mask, especially in crowded areas and on public transport.
And the bright side, he noted, is that the city's flu inoculation rate has increased by 5%. Still, he calls for more vaccination, especially among high-risk groups who can suffer from more complications and a higher mortality rate from flu.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan revealed Hong Kong's economic growth for the entire 2024 is expected to be 2.5%. For 2025, the finance chief anticipates geopolitics and the high interest rate environment could ratchet up market volatility.
Hong Kong is set to bid farewell to 2024 in 2 days. In his blog post, Financial Secretary Paul Chan looks back at Hong Kong's economy this year.
2024年步入尾聲。
Chan says the bustling streets reflected the more vibrant business atmosphere. He says the government had worked to tap new markets for Hong Kong companies and bring in new capital over the past year. Thanks to these efforts, Chan says Hong Kong has notched prominent positions in many global rankings. He added the number of mainland and overseas companies registered in Hong Kong increased by about 1,000, which has marked a record high. Chan said the start of the U.S. interest rate cut cycle and Beijing's stimulus measures helped boost Hong Kong's asset market. This year, the stock market turnover witnessed a surge, with the daily average topping $132 billion. Chan described the property market as having stabilized in recent months, with a modest 2% uptick in the average transaction number. The number of visitor arrivals to Hong Kong surpassed 44 million, marking an increase of 30% year-on-year as well. However, he noted challenges remain for the retail and catering sectors. But Chan believes the resumption of the multi-entry permit scheme for Shenzhen residents could help ease such woes.
展望2025年。
Looking ahead to 2025, China amidst uncertainties from geopolitics and a prolonged high interest rate environment will add volatility to the market. With that, he said Hong Kong should leverage its edge as a superconnector and value adder while seizing opportunities, accelerating its integration into the nation's overall development.
And still ahead, 2 Hong Kongers share their insights into career development in Saudi Arabia. The prototype of a high-speed train that can travel up to 450 kilometers per hour. And holiday makers return to the city as their Christmas break draws to a close. Welcome back. The Hong Kong SAR government has expressed hopes of deepening economic and trade ties with Saudi Arabia. TVB spoke to some Hong Kongers who settled there to gain insight into the kingdom's development. Danny Zhou reports.
Mathematician Tony Chan was one of the first Hong Kongers to come to Saudi Arabia for career development. After being the head of the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology for nearly a decade, Chan took up his position as president of King Abdullah University of Science and Technology in 2018 and stepped down this September after 6 years of service. Chan hopes his experiences could help fellow Hong Kongers gain a better understanding of Saudi Arabia's local customs. People still have many misconceptions about Saudis, he said, pointing out the kingdom has seen drastic changes in women's rights, mega projects, as well as its relations with China and the US. Chan noted the Saudis set ambitious visions and implemented them with devised plans. And this is something Hong Kong can learn from. Miss Pan, who came to Saudi Arabia 4 years ago, is working in private jet service training. She said the pace of work and local culture have been the hardest aspects of Saudi life to adapt to. Pan said the conflict-avoiding culture in the Middle East puts her emotional intelligence to the test. She stressed caution has to be taken against uttering negative remarks. Pan said this job not only taught her to respect different cultures, but also granted her opportunities to see political and business heavyweights, including the Saudi royal family, through which she could get a taste of local hosting etiquette. Pan said her guests pay a great deal of attention to details. Their thoughts are always snow white and smartly ironed. In Chief Executive John Lee's policy address, he encouraged taxi drivers in the city to provide service information in the Arabic language to cater to Middle Eastern visitors. Chen and Pan both consider the key to gaining customers lies in enhancing communication and understanding between the two sides. They suggested Hong Kong taxi drivers learn some basic Arabic phrases such as greetings or thanks for mutual respect, as many Saudi drivers are able to say a few words in Chinese. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol has failed to respond to a third request to appear before an anti-corruption inquest. Yoon is being investigated by the country's anti-corruption body for his December 3rd declaration of martial law. Yoon's actions prompted chaos in the country, with the National Assembly blocking martial law within 6 hours of his declaration. The president was eventually impeached, and his fate is now in the hands of the Constitutional Court. Yoon has vowed to fight his impeachment. He was supposed to appear at 10 a.m. today at the office of the anti-corruption body in Guachong. The body said Yoon has yet to submit any documents and is also refusing to receive a summons. China unveils its first next-generation amphibious assault ship, which can launch fighter jets. The Type 076 warship named Sichuan was independently developed by China, hailed as a key asset for advancing the Navy's transformation and long-range operational capabilities. The ship features a full-load displacement of over 40,000 tons, a twin-island superstructure, and a full-length flight deck. Notably, it adopts an electromagnetic catapult system, allowing the vessel to carry fixed-wing aircraft, along with helicopters and amphibious equipment. Also unveiled today was a prototype of the CR-450 bullet train. Boasting a maximum speed of 450 kilometers an hour, it is tipped to become the world's fastest commercial train when it begins operations next year. The bullet train made its debut in Beijing today. China Railway said the train can cut travel time between Beijing and Shanghai from the current 4 hours to around 2.5 hours. The Immigration Department expects the number of cross-border travelers to peak today as the Christmas holidays draw to a close. Authorities estimate that some 626,000 people will enter the city throughout the day. And up to 4 p.m. today, 259,000 people, including almost 150,000 local residents, enter the city. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Scenes of the airport packed with returning travelers could be found throughout this afternoon, many of them consisting of families bearing gifts from their trips abroad. Over the course of the Christmas holidays, a total of 2.1 million Hong Kongers departed from the city between Christmas Eve and Saturday. 90% of them have already returned to the SAR. Those traveling outside of the city have also increased by 15% compared with last year, with the majority choosing the mainland as their destination. Meanwhile, scores of Hong Kongers who traveled up north could be seen returning to the city via high-speed rail at the West Kowloon station today.
Surprisingly, it was not that crowded. I mean, it's pretty packed, but it also didn't take that long, maybe 5 minutes.
I think that it's a little bit crowded, but I think it's pretty efficient. I personally think that it only took 20 minutes. It wasn't that long, so I think it's very reasonable, especially considering it was the holidays over and everyone's coming back to Hong Kong.
Some overseas tourists also shared their thoughts on celebrating Christmas in the mainland.
The Shenzhen, it was a quite celebrating city. Most of it was celebrating. And I saw a lot of people, probably they have taken their time off from their job. You can find, through the differences, you can find some common things from our civilizations.
As you can see behind me, large crowds continue to make their way back to Hong Kong as of the late afternoon. Many of those here today emphasize how convenient the entire return procedure was from the mainland to Hong Kong. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Another fatal industrial incident in Hong Kong. A worker was killed after being struck by a glass wall, which fell off a construction site atop the West Kowloon high-speed rail station. It happened at around 4 p.m. yesterday. The 53-year-old victim and his colleagues were tasked to lower the 1.2-ton curtain glass wall to the ground. The strap that was supposed to secure the glass wall suddenly snapped, causing the wall to crash onto the victim. The development project is undertaken by Sun Hung Kai Properties. It said the deceased worked for a subcontractor at the site, and all the work there has ceased to allow for a review of all safety measures. Authorities are looking into the cause of the incident. A woman has gone missing while hiking on Ma On Shan. Authorities continue search and rescue efforts around Ma On Shan Country Park. Police received a report at around 1:30 p.m. about the missing woman, who was said to have fallen off a hillside and gone missing. The smart motorway pilot scheme was launched at the road section of Tin Cow Bridge southbound today. The system could use artificial intelligence to detect traffic accidents and efficiently divert vehicles. The smart system would notify motorists about lane changes through various message signs. This, as the plan was earlier submitted to the Legislative Council, with some lawmakers describing the measure as the most cost-effective method to divert traffic flow. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.